All right, today we're talking about flash. Not him. I'm gonna share when I decide to pick up a flash and how I use the flash. So let's start with the very obvious number one reason is it's dark. Duh. Sometimes there just isn't enough available light, so a lot of times I'll throw on a flash, a speed light, on top of my camera. There's two main ways I use the speed light when it's on top of my camera. The first one is I always try to bounce light off a wall so that I get nice soft light on people. The second one, if it's an outdoor or strange black ceiling venue, I'll usually put a flash bender on here. And then the third way is that I will actually use the flash, I'll turn it off and use the flash as a commander to talk to other flashes. And then I'll usually stick one of these guys. I'll have, I only have one here, but pretend there's another flash. I'll have this one on my camera and it's, controlling a second speed light that's in some kind of umbrella. The second time I use flash, I call in combat mode. This is where you're doing a portrait session or you're photographing outdoors. And at first, when you first start photography, you pretty much use whatever is available to you. You're at the mercy of natural light. You're a natural light photographer. But as you get better with using some of the equipment and gear, you start to realize that if you have more control of the light, you start to have consistent results. And you also you start liking your photographs more and not wondering why this person's skin is so red, but when you did it last week, the person's skin was perfect. So problem number one is usually some kind of color cast. If I am near a red brick wall, or my gosh, I used to be so scared of red sidewalks. I've told clients, no, I don't shoot in that downtown, no. But now being a little bit more skilled, I'm ready for that problem. So a lot of times if there is a red color cast from a building, I usually will use something like this AD200. This is enough light where you can just bring down some of the light that is on people's faces. And the way I try to use this AD200 is to almost make it not look like there's flash going off. It's just to kill some of that red that's trying to come up, or the green from the grass. We're just like, combat mode. The next one is for dead eyes. When there's no catch light in someone's eyes, I know that I'm not getting enough sky exposed. A lot of times I'll move the person around until I see a lot of the sky in their eyes. So if I see dead eye, my usual go-to is a reflector. That usually will give me a little pop in the eye. But if there just isn't enough light to reflect from, that happens if a building is in the way as well. A lot of times I'll just grab a flash and put it on some kind of just a regular old umbrella. Works well enough to just pop that little catch light in the eyes. The next one is related. Raccoon eyes, also related to dead eyes, but a lot of times if there's just not enough light coming from the front and it's mostly above, one thing you can do is actually have people lay down on the ground or have shoot from above a little bit. This will allow them to sort of look up at the sky, which will give you catch lights. But again, I'll use a flash related to dead eyes, but I'll use a flash to get rid of the overhead light where you're getting raccoon eyes. Next, food. Oh, that took just a weird turn from people to food. If I'm shooting an event and I'm shooting sushi or delicious broccoli or sushi and broccoli, I usually will bounce flash or use flash to get the proper colors of all the food. I think it's you don't need dark and moody. You don't need any kind of tones for food. I want to see the food the way it was meant to be seen, with bright, vibrant, real daylight colors. As a hair light, this was the first extra light I started using. When you first start, you got your front light on, you got your flash, but there's something clicks when all of a sudden you add that second light. And I remember making a video, gosh, I don't know how long ago I made that video, but I made a video about adding that second light and how all of a sudden you start moving that light around, that second one, and you start to sort of create a little bit more 3D-ness in your image. So for the most part, it's usually a speed light in some tiny umbrella. And that, at least a lot of times, that second umbrella sometimes becomes my main light. If I need to grab a light that is small, I need to run out. Instead of bringing a bigger light, that hair light sometimes becomes my main light. So that's another way I use the hair light. Or if I'm at an event and I kind of want more DJ looking, harsher light, it's just on a stand with a little mag mod on it that sort of, I either put a grid on it or I sort of put a little diffusion on it just to soften it. But a lot of times it's kind of bare on a light stand, just giving dramatic, party lighting when there's too much light. This is the AD600 Pro 2. Godox just sent it to me. I'm working on a video on this actually right after this. I'm gonna show you how I use this light at a shoot. But this AD600 Pro 2 is perfect if there's too much sunlight. A lot of times if you turn the person around and have the sun be on their back, you could use that as a hair light and use something like this AD600 Pro 2, or if you don't have enough bucks, the AD600. And I'll use lights like this if I want to shoot high-speed sync outdoors. This is, I'll usually control my exposure so that it's nice and darker than, I bring the sun down in the camera settings, and then I'll pop a bunch of this light just to, create a little bit more interest in the photo. Now, if it's not super bright, a lot of times, like if it's kind of sundown or we're shooting in the shade, I'll do the same thing with the AD200. I'll shoot high-speed sync with the AD200, and this guy has enough power to sort of, like I said, if you're at sundown or shade, to get the same kind of deal. Next, I'll use a flash if I want to balance the light coming in. This is related to the other one, like the high-speed sync one, but it's kind of like I could shoot without flash if I wanted to. Like there's a lot of window light coming in, but when you figure out what you're going to do, you realize that you can't shoot with the sun, or you can't drape the windows and shoot in that direction. The couch happens to be, right under the windows. So we can't move the couch. What are you gonna do? So this is where you problem solve. You're like, I can't move the couch. Let's just make a big window light and photograph, towards the windows. And so a lot of times I'll sort of figure out, what's actually possible in an environment. And if something's not possible, then you always can rely on your own window that you make. In the next one, the background needs a little help. Sometimes you show up at a location and, the DJ and the entertainment company put up some backlighting that is just like a little weak. So sometimes I'll put a gel on here, like a pink gel, and I can light up a whole area. Related to that, sometimes the background is so far in a location that it's so dark back there that you need to light with a third light. Main light, hair light, and the third light is this tiny little light I put on a tiny stand that sometimes will light up my background. Next on my list is for portraits. I always use a rim light and a dramatic light kind of with a grid on. This is something that all people who do sports sort of portraits, they seem to use because it works. It just creates a beautiful outline around the subject. So I usually will put 2 speed lights in little, it depends. If we're shooting on location, I just have tiny little light stands with little umbrellas that have grids on them and a budget little setup. Sometimes it's 2 AD200s in the back. Sometimes it's 2 speed lights if it's dark enough in the back, just to create the rim lights. On the list, I wrote, for fun. I was trying to write stuff down. How do you use flash? Sometimes you just use a flash to see what it does. Like if you're shooting insects, or I made a video where I photographed some flowers, and if you put the flash like behind the flowers, you get some beautiful, lighting through the flowers. Stuff like that. Sometimes people do water photography and things. I used to do more of that when I first started. You were so excited about, trying. I haven't done droplet photography since year 1. But all that stuff is fun, and I wish that I was a beginner sometimes so I could do more of that stuff, or I wish I had more time to do more fun stuff. Freeze action. Now, flash can actually, I just mentioned droplet photography. Flash can actually freeze action faster than your shutter speed can, like the camera shutter speed. So the camera shutter speed usually maxes out at 1/8000, but this AD AD600 Pro 2, can you tell Godox sent it to me? This beautiful AD600 Pro 2, this guy has a freeze mode where you can actually freeze the action 1/204,000th of a second, like really, like fine powder or like a bee's wing. We'll show you that in the AD600 video. Okay, stop. Now you can freeze action during an event by putting the speed light on your camera. I usually will start moving the camera with a slow shutter speed. And then if you shoot at f8 and kind of pop the light, you can actually have the room sort of moving around, and then the flash freezes the people, which is really cool. So that's another way I use my flash. I love flash. I love using speedlights and flashes, but I know a lot of you have talked to me and say you want to learn about lighting, and I've been working on courses behind the scenes. So in the comments below, or you can write to me on Instagram at @ogonzilla, let me know what you want to learn, because I am, sort of pinpointing my course down this path so you can become a lighting expert. But let me know what challenges you have with lighting, and I would love to add them to the curriculum or curricula. Curriculi. All right, I'll see you guys next time.